And I'm Amber.
Did you know that on average, each American uses 680 pounds of paper each year?
So today we're going to teach you how to upcycle your used paper.
Here's what you'll need. Obviously, we'll need some old paper. It can be printer paper or cardstock or even junk mail. You're going to tear your paper up and then soak it in a bucket overnight. And that's what we've already done here. So this one is all white paper, and this one has blue paper in it. Then you'll need a rolling pin, a little bit of parchment paper, and whatever add-ins you want. So you can use glitter, you can use little cut up pieces of paper, you could even cut up pieces of string to add in. Then you're going to need a blender, and we're going to be blending up our little pieces of paper right in here. A strainer might also be helpful later on. And then over to the side, you'll need a piece of a smooth fabric. So this could be like an old sheet or a piece of felt. Underneath it, you want to stack up a few old towels so that your table doesn't get wet. And then you'll need a sponge and maybe some spoons to stir your paper up with. So let's get started.
So the first step in our process is to soak your paper in your water overnight. We already did that, as you can see, and we have it in our blender so that we can blend it up. So we're going to blend it to a fine pulp. Once you think that your paper is blended up enough, you want to check it and use your spoon or fork, whatever works, and just check it to make sure that all of your paper has been blended up and there are no big chunks left. If you need to, if your liquid is too thick or too thin or it won't blend, you can take out or add water as much as you need. So this is about the consistency that we made our first pulp. It kind of depends on really your personal preference of how thick or how thin you want your pulp to be. And as you can see, there's still a lot of water left in ours. So we are going to have to drain that out before we make our paper. Now we're going to drain our pulp using a strainer. Any kitchen strainer will work, but make sure to ask your parents before you use their good strainer. And you just want to be squeezing the water out of the pulp. And you'll be left with a paper pulp, sort of like this. You don't want to drain out all of the water, but you do want to drain out a good bit so that it's noticeably smaller than what you started off with.
If you don't have a strainer, you can also use your hands to gently squish out all of the water. Just make sure that you're reaching into the blender with a spoon and not with your hands. So once we squeeze the water out of the pulp, you'll see that it's starting to form a squishier consistency, and I can pass it back and forth from one hand to the other. That's ready to go, and we can keep squeezing the water out. All right, so now we have our paper pulp. At this point, what you want to do is grab a pretty good handful. So if you want a large sheet of paper, you probably want about a cup of paper pulp. Then you're going to take your parchment paper and put it on top. You can flatten it out a little bit with your hands, but we're going to be using our rolling pin to roll this out as smooth and as thinly as we can. All right, at this point, I'm going to take our parchment paper off for a second, and we have a pretty thick piece right now. But before we go farther, I'm going to take our sponge, and it actually helps if this is a little bit damp to begin with. We're going to take our sponge and really gently pat the top of our piece of paper. And what we're doing is just getting rid of some of the excess moisture. All right, parchment paper is going back on, and now we're going to roll it out a little bit more. At this point, we're going to once more sponge it down.
You know when to stop rolling your paper once you get it about as thin as a rolling pin will possibly go. So once you have your parchment paper off and you've sponged it down and you think that that's about as far as it goes, then you want to leave it sit until it dries, or you can use a hairdryer to speed up the process. So if you want to add anything to your paper, such as glitter or string, really anything that you can find that you think would look good in your paper, then you can just add it to the pulp after you have strained the pulp. So as you can see, I already have the pulp in the bucket and I have added some glitter on top of it. And so now I'm going to mix that up. You can use your hands or a spoon. It's really up to you, just anything to mix your paper pulp around.
So in this batch, we're adding in some little snippets of paper and also some ground up felt.
In Christmas colors.
So we blended up about 5 pieces of regular paper, and that lent itself to a piece that's about 8 by 7 inches. So once your paper is dry after you've left it overnight, you can gently peel it off of your fabric, and then you'll be left with some pieces like this. Now, if you want to, you can cut square shapes out of them, or you can leave them in their rounded shape.
I hope you enjoyed this STEM project and had a lot of fun. Make sure to have a happy holiday season and stay safe.
Bye!
Bye!